Hi y'all, and welcome back to my channel. Once again, I don't know which video of these recording sessions is going to be out first, so yippee! But hi, in case this is the first one, I'm getting over a cold, so my voice sounds a little funky right now. And also you might hear some rain because it has been raining today. But if you don't know me or what this series is about, hi, my name's Jax, and I am your local Transformers fanatic and connoisseur. And in this series, the ABCs of Transformers, we go over all of the canon and fanon terminology used within the Transformers franchise and fandom. And in this video, we will be going over spirituality, myth, and culture. This includes things like certain religious identities, some of the cultural language specific to Cybertronians, as well as some of the mythological terms that might be important to have on hand, especially if you are wanting to dip your toes into the wider Transformers canon and fandom. Hey y'all, Future Jax here. This isn't an advertisement, this is a call to action. As we all know, we've been seeing the heavy rise of AI and AI-generated images, video, etc. used throughout the world. But it is so much more than just that. AI not only has horrific ethical, humanitarian issues connected to it, but it also has horrific environmental issues connected to it. And this is going to sound scary when I say it, so I want y'all to take the time, sit with the fear, and instead turn that fear into action, into hope. Because towns like Chicago are already losing their freshwater resources rapidly because of the AI data centers built in these towns. And big tech CEOs and billionaires are doing their very best to try and keep pushing AI forward to an unsustainable extent. This is something that needs to have action done now. So, what can we do about it? This is where I would like to shout out two organizations, one of which I am personally involved in. We have Stop AI, which is a San Francisco-based movement that is working to, as the title says, stop AI. You can go to their website, stopai.info, in order to learn more information about their cause, what you can do, how you can get involved, and also donate. The same goes for Pause AI, an international grassroots movement calling for a pause on AI. If you go to their website, pauseai.info, you can find a statement which you can sign. We're currently trying to get 900 signatures, as well as an ACT page to figure out how you can get involved in the community, what you can do to help, petitions to sign, as well as a Discord server to join. Stop AI also has a Discord server which you can join. I highly recommend joining these Discord servers in order to get more involved directly with the community itself in order to promote and create action. I am literally begging y'all to please join these movements. The risks posed by AI are too great to ignore. Once again, go check out pauseai.info or stopai.info in order to learn more information about how you can get involved in order to pause and stop AI. Now before I get on to the rest of the video, a few little quick thingies. I have completed the Google Doc master list for this series, which is down in the description below, in which it is there and free for everyone to use at their own convenience and leisure. And as I do make these videos in my free time and for free, I have my Ko-fi linked in the description in case you would like to give me a tip of some kind, or take a look at my shop and some of the stuff I have up on there. Absolutely do not feel beholden to give me any sort of financial aid or even check out anything from my shop. It is something you only do if you want to. I make these videos for fun and for myself, first and foremost. But with all that out of the way, let's get into the spirituality, myth, and cultural terms of the Transformers franchise and fandom. Amica Endura. Amica Endura is the platonic counterpart to the term conjunx endura, which we will go over later in this video. An Amica Endura is the equivalent of a best friend and or queer platonic partner for a Transformer, depending on interpretation. And while a Transformer making somebody else their Amica Endura is usually done between trusted individuals or partners, this is not always the case in Transformers canon. The ritual to cement an Amica Endura bond is sometimes also done for cultural or religious reasons. For example, like in Firestar and Nautica's case in the More Than Meets the Eye comics. Now, in order to become somebody's Amica Endura, you must first undergo the Amica Ritus, or what I have dubbed the Amica Ritus. The Amica Endura ritual is not technically actually formally named this, and the ritual itself I don't think is actually given a proper name in canon, so I have just labeled it as the Amica Ritus, as the ritual to make somebody your conjunx endura is called conjunx ritus. The Amicaritas involves a transformer bearing one spark to who they intend their amica to be, and telling the transformers involved why they value them. This ritual can also happen between more than one transformer at a time, which means multiple transformers at the same time can all become each other's amica endura, which also means that multiple people can have multiple amica endurae. Aura. An aura is a type of metaphysical, colorful energy surrounding a transformer, kind of bordering their silhouette. An aura can be any color, the color being extremely meaningful as this is used to interpret how a transformer is feeling at any given time. And there are certain transformers like Spectralists who are able to read auras or see auras, like Drift from More Than Meets the Eye. Now, in spite that the aura is kind of technically an actual canonical thing, a lot of actual transformers don't actually believe in auras, and it is very much seen more as a spiritual and religious practice and or belief. Ba weep grana weep ninibong. Ba weep grana weep ninibong is a universal greeting originating from the original G1 movie. It basically means we come in peace and is used whenever there is some kind of language barrier involved, hence why it is dubbed the universal greeting. Carrier. Now, I'm going to ask that people be mature when I am discussing these topics, because I know a lot of y'all's initial reactions will be to laugh and to think that this is weird and odd, but this is the nature of fandom. This is something that happens in fandom, and it is something that has been in fandom for ages. We are talking about a topic that does involve mpreg, because yes, mpreg does exist in the Transformers fandom, and it's crazy, and it's also canon. I'm not joking. It's a fact I always love to bring up anytime that anybody is being introduced to Transformers because it's insane. But, however, mpreg is actually a thing that happens in real life. Trans men exist. People who identify as men have uteruses and can have children. And I want to use this as a moment to try and desensitize some of y'all not only to mpreg used in fandom, but mpreg that does happen in real life as an actual biological thing. So I'm going to ask that everyone be mature here when I am explaining these definitions, even though, yeah, they are silly inherently, and that's fine, but I am just asking for some good humor and good intentions with this, as I believe this is something extremely important to destigmatize. I could make a whole dissertation on how this is like, the mpreg is actually so important, not just to fandom culture, but to like actual real life culture, and could possibly be used as a desensitization technique to not only male pregnancy, but pregnancy of all kinds. Anyways, so a carrier is a parental gender-neutral role for a transformer, and is used to refer to a transformer who is carrying or has carried a spark to term in their gestation chamber, which this is something I don't think I initially added to the anatomy and biology section. I might have later, but the basics of the gestation chamber is that it is a womb. It is the Transformers version of a womb. Most often you will see the term carrier used in Transformers fan works involving mechpreg, the equivalent of mpreg for the Transformers fandom. Carrier, of course, being the equivalent of a pregnant person or birthing person for humans, as well as the equivalent to the roles of mum, dad, or parent. Caste and caste system. The caste system is a functionist hierarchical system classifying transformers based on what they transform into. A transformer's caste dictates what their class would be, including things like access to proper food and housing, and their rights. Within fanon and canon, there are many different types of classes and castes, but some of the canonical ones being the military class, disposable class, political class, scientific class, manual class, and construction class. So for example, let's say you were a transformer born with a tank alt mode. You would likely be put into the military caste, seeing as how a tank is most likely to be used in wartime efforts. You would likely have more rights and privileges than something like the manual class, which is one of the lowest classes. But you would still hold fewer privileges and rights than something like the political class, which is some of the upper echelon classes. And of course, due to the sound of this system, it is an extremely discriminatory and unjust classing system. This, of course, leading Cybertron to eventually revolt against the politicians of Cybertron and eventually abolishing the caste system entirely after the war. As in certain continuities like the IDW continuity, the war begins due to the revolution because of this caste system. Chirolinguistics. Chirolinguistics, also referred to as speaking in hands, is a type of Cybertronian language that is done with hand-to-hand contact, where two mechs will place their palms against one another's and move either their fingers, digits, wrists, etc. in order to stimulate the other's nervous system and communicate. While this language is not horrifically used and horrifically popular within canon, it is used by certain transformers, including Drift in More Than Meets the Eye. Conjunx Endura. Conjunx Endura is the romantic counterpart to Amica Endura, virtually a transformer's marital partner or spouse. Now, a Conjunx Endura is something that is actually very rare for most transformers to have within canon. Not really so much in fanon, that shit's used all the time. But there have been particular standout Conjunx Endura couples throughout the Transformers franchise, including that of Drift and Ratchet from More Than Meets the Eye, and Chrome Dome and Rewind also from More Than Meets the Eye. Now, unlike Amica Endura, Conjunx Endura has never been shown in canon as being able to have more than one Conjunx Endura at a time. There are a lot of those within fanon who just rightfully assume that probably. However, a transformer can have multiple Conjunx Endura over the span of their lifetime. And in order to become one another's Conjunx Endura, you must perform our next term, the Conjunx Ritus. The Conjunx Ritus is the 4-act ritual which ensures your Conjunx Endura bond with another transformer. This ritual, involving 4 acts of kindness or mutual affection, that cements a transformer's romantic relationship to one another. This includes the act of intimacy, which involves performing some kind of intimate act. It can be something like hand-holding or sharing a kiss. The act of disclosure, sharing a secret about yourself to your partner. The act of profference, giving some form or some kind of a gift to your partner. And the act of devotion, performing some sort of fantastic display of your love and affection for your partner. Again, similarly to what we discussed in Conjunx Endura, it is unsure whether Conjunx Ritus can be performed between more than 2 mecha at a time. Cybertronian / Neo-Cybex. Cybertronian / Neo-Cybex is the modern-day language for Cybertronians. Fem. Now, originally I had terms like fem and mech in anatomy and biology. However, I thought about it a little harder and was like, oh, that might be slightly problematic because that's like kind of inferring that like it means that your identity as a femme means it's inherent to your biology, which just is transphobic. So I thought that these terms might fit better within the cultural section for this list, as things like gendered terms tend to depend on a society's culture more so rather than an individual person's biology or anatomy, as well as somebody's gender identity, and which gendered pronouns or terms that they choose to use is up to their own individual identity. Femme is the term used to refer to a feminine transformer or a female transformer. This is the word used synonymously as woman or female for us humans. Frag. Frag is a Cybertronian cuss word, meaning fuck. And most often it is used as a curse word or insult. Again, similarly to fuck. We will go over its other meaning in the 18+ video that I will release later on in the future. Functionism. Functionism is a Cybertronian political / kind of religious belief that form dictates function, meaning that your alt mode, your form, dictates your function in society. This is the belief that led to the caste system in something like the IDW comics. Gestalt or Gestalt mate. A Gestalt is usually a group of 5 to 6 combiner mecha. The individuals within the Gestalt can be referred to as Gestalt mates. How exactly they are connected other than just being a group of 5 to 6 combiners, I don't know. That's it. That's like the only connection. That's what a Gestalt is. It's pretty simple. I know that there's been some people in the fandom who are like, that's it? That's what makes them a Gestalt? Like, it's not like a spark connection or anything? And it's like, yeah. It's just a group of 5 to 6 combiners. That's it. It's like saying trio, I guess. Almost. Glitch. Glitch is another Cybertronian cuss word, this one being similar to bitch. So for example, instead of saying something like, you're such a bitch, you would say, you're such a glitch. It's very silly. I love Cybertronian cuss words. Lord High Protector. Lord High Protector is a title originating from IDW's Bayverse comics. In the comics, High Protector is a military rank. It is part of the governing system of that version of Cybertron, in which Cybertron is ruled by the military, the High Protector, and the scientific branch, the Primes. Lord in particular joined the prefix of this title after Megatron got into an argument with Optimus, where he demanded to be called Lord High Protector. Now, this is its official meaning in canon. However, in fanon, this term has kind of taken a new life of its own and is something that is incredibly popular, especially in Megop fanfictions or fanfictions involving primes. The title of Lord High Protector now instead kind of becoming more of this bodyguard kind of role to a prime instead of something that is more of a military ranking. So this role of Lord High Protector becomes much more literal in meaning to mean the protector of the prime, where Lord High Protector, again, as I've stated, acts more as this sort of religious bodyguard, very most often that being of Megatron to Optimus Prime. But of course, the exact interpretation of Lord High Protector and what exactly it means in Cybertronian culture and society can be up to individual fan interpretation. Mech. Mech is the word used to refer to a masculine transformer or a transformer who identifies as male. It is most similar to the term male or man for humans. Mech can also be used as a gender-neutral term, however, to just refer to a transformer in general, like saying, hey, that guy over there, instead you would say, hey, that mech over there. Mech can also be used in its plural form, mecha, to refer to multiple transformers. Old Cybertronian / Primal Vernacular / Ancient Cybertronian. Old Cybertronian / Ancient Cybertronian / Primal Vernacular is the original form of Neo-Cybex / Cybertronian on Cybertron. This original primal form of the language isn't used much in modern-day Cybertron, however, there are still certain speakers of the language, including characters such as Cyclonus and Boss from the IDW comics. Pit fights / pit fighting. Pit fights were a form of sport and entertainment on Cybertron mirroring that of gladiatorial combat. Now, depending on continuity, pit fights were either purely entertainment and there wasn't anything like underlying or nefarious going on with it. It was simply a form of sport, a form of entertainment, something that gives Cybertronians joy, similar to like what a basketball game is. However, in other continuities, especially those like the Aligned and IDW comics, pit fighting takes on a more nefarious turn, becoming a blood sport instead, performed in order to quell the lower castes of Cybertron, who are unable to take out their anger on the higher caste who keep them oppressed. This of course means that in continuities like this, pit fights were often performed to the death. And most often the pit fighters themselves were those of lower caste as well, many of whom turned to pit fighting as an alternative form of income, lifestyle, or job opportunity due to their caste, as well as preferring the alternative of working in somewhere like the mines, which were often extremely dangerous and very poor living conditions. Some of the most popular characters who have been pit fighters throughout the franchise includes Megatron, Grimlock, RC, and Soundwave. Prime. A prime can be an important religious, political, or cultural figure in Cybertronian society. And what exactly a prime can do in their society and what powers they can have is up to interpretation in every continuity and fan interpretation. For example, in something like Transformers 1, primes are chosen by Primus himself and often given special abilities. For example, Orion Pax becoming Optimus Prime and gaining his sick frickin' axe. Whereas in a series like Transformers Animated, it is more of a military ranking rather than an important religious figure who's connected directly to Primus. This means that throughout continuities, primes can do things such as hold vast amounts of political power, either being able to be a voice for their fellow Cybertronians, much like Optimus Prime is, or by using their prime title and privileges for their own personal gain, like Sentinel Prime does in Transformers 1. Some of the most notable primes across continuities, of course, being Optimus Prime, Sentinel Prime, and the 13 Primes. Primus. Primus was the very first Transformer as well as the god of the Transformers. He is the one who created Transformers as well as sometimes either creating Cybertron and or transforming into the planet Cybertron himself after the creation of Cybertronians, as well as being the being that the other god, Unicron, was born from. The 13/the 13 Primes. The 13 Primes were the very first original Transformers created by Primus himself, made in order to defeat the evil doings of Unicron. Each Prime was given their own unique artifact by Primus himself, such as the Matrix of Leadership and the Forge of Solus Prime, of which each and every Prime contains an aspect of Cybertronian culture and life that they represent. For example, Solus Prime was the very first Femme Transformer, being the origins for every Femme Transformer since her creation. The 13 Primes usually consist of Prima, Solus Prime, Micronus Prime, Alchemist Prime, Alpha Trion, Vector Prime, Nexus Prime, Onyx Prime, Amalgamus Prime, Quintus Prime, Liege Maximo, the Fallen, aka Megatronus, and the 13th. However, the 13th is sometimes replaced with Zeta Prime, like in certain continuities such as Transformers 1. Trine. A trine is usually a group of 3 mecha. We most often see trines in seeker-based relationships. Now, how exactly a trine is connected and interconnected is a mystery. It's a mystery, to be honest. It can depend on many different things, such as the continuity that this trine comes from, the relationship that these 3 characters have between one another, including things like familial ties, if any, but usually, most especially, it is dependent on personal interpretation of what you want a trine to represent. For example, the most popular trine in the fandom, that being between Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp. How exactly that trine is related to one another and why exactly they are a trine is wibbly wobbly. It's why, technically the only canonical definition of trine is just, it's a group of 3 mechs, is because we don't know how else they're interconnected. It's very similar to Gestalt, how its only definition is really a group of 5 to 6 combiner mechs. That's it, because Transformers, in fact, can be that simplistic, and often is. However, because of this, and because people do still get very confused about what exactly a trine relationship can represent, it can have a few different meanings. And again, this is mostly personal interpretations that I have seen the fan base use, which includes perhaps they're all siblings, maybe the 3 seekers are all siblings, maybe that's how they're interconnected, maybe that's why they're a trine. Other interpretations I see is that they're all dating. Another interpretation is that they are all spark bonded, which I think is very interesting, or not necessarily spark bonded, but they have some kind of metaphysical connection to one another, where maybe they're kind of able to sense each other's emotions, or just innately understand and get each other. Other times, especially when you're not referring to just Thundercracker, Skywarp, and Starscream, people will just call a trine any 3 group of mecha who just happen to always appear together. For example, the Rainmakers would be considered another type of trine because they are all 3 of them usually seen together, and they are a group that consists of 3 mecha. How exactly they're related to one another, I don't know. That's up to you to decide. It can also mean that everyone in the trine has an extremely close bond to one another, whether that be platonic, queer platonic, romantic. Just some people are yeah, they're just emotionally really close to one another. It's very highly dependent on personal interpretation and also continuity. Scrap. Scrap is another Cybertronian cuss word similar to crap, likely being a combination between shit and crap to create scrap. Scrap, of course, can also be used synonymously for the word junk or trash. Scrud. Scrud, similarly to scrap, is another Cybertronian cuss word similar to crud. It is possibly even a mixture between scrap and crud. Sire. A sire is another gender-neutral term for a transformer, who sires a newborn spark after the carrier has carried them to term. This is the equivalent of a non-gestational parent for humans, as well as similar to the roles of mom, dad, or parent. Slag. Another Cybertronian cuss word, slag is similar to saying trash or filth, but can also be used as an expletive, such as, what the slag? Sparkling. This is another term most commonly seen in mech-preg fan works, though that is not always the case. A sparkling is the equivalent of a child or baby for a transformer. And this, I'm pretty sure, is a term that is specifically fanon only due to like the nature that this word is usually used in, that being mech-preg. And especially with the case that transformers don't really canonically have sparklings. They don't canonically really have kids. The Terrans are like a very special circumstance. Sparkmate. A sparkmate is used to refer to a transformer who is spark bonded to another transformer. Refer to this video up here to learn what spark bonding is. Spectralism. Spectralism is a religious belief in transformers. It is the belief that colors hold significant meaning. These are the individuals who practice in or can see and read auras. The most well-known spectralist being that of Drift in the IDW comics. Unicron. Unicron is Primus's evil other half, aka the Satan of Transformers. Due to his evil ways, he was eventually beaten by the 13 Primes, and after this, is either a floating head in space or becomes the Earth itself in certain continuities. And that is the end of spirituality, myth, and culture for the ABCs of Transformers. Once again, if I have missed a glaringly obvious term or I haven't defined something well, absolutely feel free to pop a comment below, and I will absolutely add it to the list in the description or work on redefining things. I hope you enjoyed today's video. This was one of the topics that I was actually really excited to get to because it had stuff like Amica Endura, Conjux Endura. I love talking about like the culture of Cybertron because it's something that can be so unique, seeing how different either people's like interpretation of what Cybertronian culture can be, whether that be in canon or fanon, compared to like what our human culture is, how it differs, like what is it like for an entire alien race that is entirely different from our own to have culture. What is that like? It's just something so vastly different from ours. I love exploring it and learning about it. And I hope you guys did too. Remember, if you liked this video, please press the like button below. You do not have to if you do not want to, don't worry. Or click the subscribe button below as well if you would like to see more Transformers or nerdy content in the future from yours truly. Again, please refer to my Google Doc master list for any other terms or phrases that you missed, or the rest of my videos in this series that are up so far. It is incredibly helpful to know your terminology, especially when you are reading things like fan fiction all the time, because it can get really confusing. But anyways, I hope you guys are having a good day, and remember, if not, I'm sending you spoons. Till all are one, and peace through tyranny. Bye bye!